Hey everyone, it's Wiz. Let's talk about Fire Emblem and other things. Fire Emblem's kind of been the majority of it, right? Since Engage is coming out soon and Heroes is constantly moving. There's always stuff going on. But Game Awards happened, and Fire Emblem. I didn't expect there to be a trailer because Nintendo doesn't always do it. Sometimes they throw some stuff out there. But a few years back, Fire Emblem won Player's Voice, which means the community voted Fire Emblem to be Game of the Year, despite the Game Awards never even nominating it for that kind of thing. So I should have known that Fire Emblem Three Houses would be big enough to make it so that Engage got a trailer here this year. I didn't expect it, but that trailer happened in the exact way that anyone would have thought. By that, what I mean is Fire Emblem Engage is officially confirmed DLC, and that DLC is other Emblem characters. Not exclusively, but largely. I'm not mad about this revelation. In fact, I'm kind of happy. I wanted Chrom. When this game was announced, the big thing I care about is Chrom coming. So I'll pay. I will pay for more emblems. But I do still have some feelings and some thoughts about how DLC is handled. So just for what it's worth, Fire Emblem Awakening, Fates, Three Houses, and even Echoes have all had some sort of Day 1 DLC. This isn't new for Fire Emblem. As long as Fire Emblem has had DLC at all, starting with Awakening, every game has had Day 1 DLC. At least the English release of Awakening. I think it took a little bit for them to get it in Japan. So my problem isn't even really that they're doing Day 1 DLC, because we kind of have to accept that as a reality in gaming, and especially Fire Emblem, because they all do it. And if they all do it, we can expect it's going to stick around. My problem isn't even what the DLC is, right? Giving us the characters. I think, personally, the only real issue I have with this specific DLC is that I have a little bit of burnout from Three Houses, and the first DLC that we see is the Three House Lords, but I mean, it makes sense. It's a logical choice, because the Three Houses characters are the newest, and I mean, even aside from the fact that it won Player's Voice, people clearly made movements and care about this game. Aside from that, it's very new, and new sells. It's recent, it's memorable, it's fresh, so they were going to be in. And then the other one is Tiki, specifically Young Tiki from Shadow Dragon, which makes sense because that's the first ever game, and Marth and Marth-related things tend to get pushed because they were first. This isn't a problem. It's just kind of as predictable as it could be, but predictability isn't always bad. It's, to me, not eliciting that much excitement for now, and I think my problem personally with it is not like a global problem, like this is a bad thing. It's actually that I was more excited before I knew there was DLC, because I was thinking oh, Chrom could be coming, it could happen. But now that we know there's DLC, I have that feeling of, oh, if we get this DLC and it still doesn't have Chrom, I'm going to be crushed. So I think that's kind of my problem with it personally. And I know other people are thinking that for Chrom or other characters, so it's not like I'm alone in that, and that's comforting a little bit. But that aside, the DLC is pretty cool. We're getting things like these emblems are exactly like the others. We talked so far about some other emblems, and they have synchro skills, they have engage skills and engage techniques, which is what I've been calling engage's second skills. We don't know too many details about the DLC characters yet, but we know the synchro skill for the Edelgard Dimitri Claude one gives you the ability to get 120% experience, level up faster. The Tiki one basically gives you amplitude from Awakening in 4th. You have 20% increased growth in stat rates. It might be a little bit broken, because I can equip that to a character and then do the endless battles in my home base, Somniel. So, I mean, it's kind of broken, right? But not invasively, because I can do that if I choose to. If I'm doing a lunatic run, if I'm doing a hard mode, I don't need to. My first playthrough, I'm not going to do something like that, right? So, the option's there, but I don't have to take it. And that is a good thing, I think. Now, there's more coming in the DLC, and that's sort of when I start to get a problem, because Fire Emblem has had a long-standing tradition of the silver card. Typically, it reduces the shop rates by 50% once you acquire it. And that is a hard-to-get item. But now it's just part of the DLC, and it decreases shop rates by 30%. So it's nerfed, but you just get it for buying the DLC, and it seems you can't get it without buying DLC. And that's really disappointing. It kind of takes that tradition and takes all of the effort out of it and paywalls it. You have to have a certain amount of money. You have to be willing to pay $30 for the DLC to get this silver card. And that's something that I don't like at all. And then we get some stat buffing items, which I mean is pretty standard. And again, if I'm doing my Lunatic Challenge runs and for my first playthrough, I just don't use them. And that's fine. Every time you start the game, they'll be in your bed. So when you go and check your bed, boom, you can increase stats by quite a bit. That's not too bad. The really cool thing that I'm really excited about with the DLC is that you get the bracelets, which are, again, Edgar, Dimitri, and Claude is one bracelet, and then Tiki is one bracelet, by doing an actual paralogue chapter. That means they are going to be the stars of a chapter. They might not get supports like the other emblems do, the other emblems being like the 12 rings, but they have a chapter. Their characters will be shown a little bit at the very least, and maybe they do get supports, we don't know yet. But for real, at the very least, they get that paralogue, and that's great, because they get to be the main character for a bit. So there's some good stuff to look forward to in this DLC. There's also some cosmetic stuff, new accessories for your character and other characters to wear, which is pretty cool. Just increase the customization. To bring the glasses back, I believe. All of the DLC is supposed to be here by the end of 2023. Wave 2 is going to have additional emblems, we don't know how many, some support items, consumable items, and crafting materials. The first wave of support items was things like the energy drop, so permanent stat buffing items. And there will also be new accessories. The only thing we know about Wave 3 is new emblems. Might not be new accessories even. There probably will. I don't know why there wouldn't be. It's weird to me to think that they would not put anything customizable. But there will at least be new emblems. Wave 4 has no new emblems. It has new characters, so people that join our team, new maps, as in new levels, and a separate story from the main. It's going to be a chapter-based story. So the chapter-based story is more like Ashen Wolves, where I think it was somewhere between 6 and 8 chapters. I kind of forgot. But it'll be like that, where it's just, instead of picking the game, start new game, or continue game, we pick this DLC campaign. We pick the DLC campaign, and I'm guessing that just like the Ashen Wolves, whoever we recruit in this campaign will become recruitable in the main game as well, so that they get supports and they can get fleshed out. Really, what I'm hoping for is Gradlon-based characters, because Gradlon is the emblem of the Season Pass, and it also is the one region that we so far don't know that we're getting any characters from, so it'd be kind of nice. Could have all the regions together, right? There will also be additional classes, which is what I'm most excited for, because this game is doing great with classes. We got the grand return of the Griffin Knight, which I've wanted for a long time and didn't ever vocalize, I don't think. But I really thought it was a cool class. The only problem was in Awakening, we didn't have anybody that, like, kind of fell into that class. Like, I mean, you could always make your Wyvern Knights promote into Griffin Knights, but you could always make your Wyvern Knights promote to Griffin Knights, but Wyvern Knights, the Wyverns are parts of the story, they're characters. So, there was no one that felt right to change into a Griffin Knight. I actually made Frederick do it because he doesn't talk about his horse all that much, so it's like, it could be a Griffin, story doesn't change. Anyway, we have that class, and it seems like we actually have someone who, like, might fall into that class. Like, Chloe might actually be a Griffin Knight in her, like, canon appearances. Awakening is the only game that has Griffin Knights, and now we have that. Now we're getting even more classes. I'm hoping Malignite comes back with, like, Ivy, but more classes. War Master, Gauntlet-led classes, a class that, like, no, it's not Gauntlets anymore, it's martial arts, but, like, a martial artist class that isn't about healing, maybe? I don't know. More martial arts classes are always cool. Actually already been called out for all of my talks about classes going into the martial arts weapons, but it's exciting to me. Anyway, I hope the story-based chapter is really good. What I don't love is that the Ashen Wolves chapter couldn't exist in the main like it was supposed to, but there's that whole thing where they go free and Alfraic dies, and then in the main story, Alfraic is just kind of chilling. But he never really, like, he shows up once to see Byleth's mom's grave. But, like, he can't join as a character. He just shows up and leaves. But in the Ashen Wolves, he dies. So it's not like you can pretend you did Ashen Wolves. Like, you pretty explicitly did not do Ashen Wolves. But then it's like, okay, so then why didn't Alfraic do the stuff he was doing? The only reason he stopped is because Byleth stopped him. But if Byleth doesn't go down there to stop him, he should do it. But instead, Byleth doesn't go down there to stop him, so he just doesn't. He's just like, never mind. I changed my mind. Hopefully this one makes a little bit more sense as to why. Like, either straight up be like, this is all like a side story. These characters, what happened was they were sleeping, so you can go recruit them. It's all fake. Or be like, yeah, this is a side story of a weird quest Alir did with these random people, that we forgot to tell you, and then they join. I don't know, whatever, you know? I feel like they can take what they did the first time and learn from it and change it a little bit. That's why I'm saying that. But to be completely fair, so on the Three Houses season pass was like a wolf standing on the moon, which is the bandit flag. But we learned, it was either the bandit flag or those who slither in the dark, but we learned almost nothing about those who slither in the dark. And we learned very, very little about the bandits. We didn't even recruit, like, Costas or anything. Which, like, why would you? But, like, if it was the bandit flag. So some of the imagery we got didn't matter the first time. So I don't know if we're going to Gradlon for this game. But it's possible. And the possibility excites me. Lastly, we're getting, of the 4 waves, one of them's already been confirmed. One of them doesn't have emblems. But that's 2 more waves that will contain emblems. There's 12 games with emblems, and we already got one for Three Houses and Shadow Dragon. So there's really 10 more games. And to be completely honest, I'm expecting more than 4. But the first season pass came with 2, but it's the first one. They're releasing it on launch day with the main game. Now they're going to focus on the DLC season pass. So really, they could really rocket that number up from 2 to maybe 3 or 4 per pass. But just to play it safe, I'm going to say we're getting 4 more for now of those next 10 games. Each of the 10 games have a few good options as to who should or could join. But again, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to narrow it down a lot. Now, the character who I would say makes the most sense to come is Chrom. And Chrom's the main character of Awakening, which is only such a big deal because Awakening is a very clear inspiration for this game, but also one of the games that really revived the franchise into being what it is. So, if they're doing DLC to introduce more characters, and this is a celebration of the whole game, it doesn't make that much sense to me to not have Chrom. And he's got a pretty good shot at being the Exalt of Bonds. That's one of his cipher cards. So I could see him being the Emblem of Bonds now as one of the emblem bracelets. I also think that he's got another fair shot at coming because even if Chrom doesn't come alone, he and Robin could share an emblem. The Chrom and Robin, probably male, because typically Chrom is shown with male Robin in Heroes, so I'd assume they would keep it the same. But either way, Chrom and Robin could be a duo, and it switches from Chrom's powerful sword techniques to Robin's thunder techniques, things like that. So far, even though we do have Celica, who does use swords and magic, her actual emblem only focuses on the magic. So Sword and Mage is not in the game yet. And I think Chrom and Robin could really make that matter, make that a thing. Even though technically Robin has a sword, Robin's known for not being Robin's more known for his magic or her magic. So I think that's the direction they would go. The one who would make the next most sense would be Eliwood Hector, or a mixture of the two. And I don't know exactly what they would do, because if it's just Hector, maybe something about his big armor. But he's a really popular character, and he's a great friend to Lyn, so I think he's in for sure. And Eliwood may or may not be there, but Eliwood is the main character, so I would kind of say they'd probably be a duo as well. But then it's like, are they all going to be duos? Because for Fates, the third one I have on my list, I think either Azura or Ryoma and Xander are coming. Personally, I hope it's Azura, because I think that she's a really cool character, and she doesn't get enough love. She gets slept on despite being the actual first thing from Fates we saw. Like, the very first trailer was Azura dancing. But Corrin's really the main character, and then Ryoma and Xander are like the main sublords of the other 2 routes. So it's possible Azura's not in, but I mean, we already have Corrin, who's like the actual main character, so Azura just sort of fits for me. Lastly, it's a tough call between Alm and Salif, because neither of their games work without them. And I have to pick 4. Then they kind of fall almost equally into 4th place. Like, who I personally would pick and who I think would be more likely sort of fluctuates. Like, both fluctuate. So I really don't know, but if I have to put one in, I'm going to say Alm. And really, my reasoning for saying Alm is pretty ridiculous. But when they're about tied to me, the tiebreaker to me is that Leaf is already called the Emblem of Genealogy, which is sort of like Salif's thing. So if they wanted Salif to be in, maybe they would have named Leaf something different, so Salif could be Genealogy. But that's not the direction we went. So if Salif's not Genealogy and he's not the Holy War, then, like, what's his title? You could think of one. I'm sure his fans could think of one easy. But the first one that they would say is genealogy, and that's taken by Leaf and Alm. I mean, Celica's called the Emblem of Echoes, but Alm could be Shadows or the Emperor, the Emblem of Duma, or the Emblem of Mila. Like he's got options too. So does Salif, but Alm's options weren't taken first. Echoes is kind of like a general, like that's the game's title. Like I said, it's not strong reasoning, but they're tied to me, so I had to have something to make the deciding call. But yeah, those are who I think are coming. That's what I'm kind of thinking about the DLC so far. I'm really hoping it's good because I think there's a lot of places they could go with it. But really, I'm holding out until the DLC is confirmed, like who the other emblems are. Hopefully, Wave 2 comes pretty soon, and I get Crom, and I can stop worrying about it. Same to whoever watching, whoever your favorite is. I hope everyone gets their favorites. I hope there's more than 4, because there should be more than 4. But that's really all I got for y'all today. So thank you so much, and until next time.